Okay, thanks for showing up, watching my video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, apparently people flex before to get someone to listen to them. Apparently they obviously have to look bigger than, the person who's viewing, because then otherwise the person who's viewing just won't listen to them. Alright, so let's talk about intermediate fasting. What are the good portions? What are the bad portions of intermediate fasting? So, intermediate fasting, I think, is really great for fat loss. Nutrient is a very underrated aspect of both fat loss and also muscle gains. That's why we consume 5-6 meals a day. It's not because that we can't fit all those calories in one meal. It's because applying those meals in a diverse standpoint continuously puts the body in muscle protein synthesis. I'll link the study below. Or studies. I don't know how many I'll put, but I found numerous. And obviously though, if you go up to 150 meals, it's not going to be beneficial to your body. You have to get about 20 to 30 grams of protein for your meals in each meal. You're still not going to want to go over your body weight in protein. There's really no need to. So that being 1 gram per pound. I weigh 150. I'll get 5 meals of 30 grams of protein, roughly. There's 2 periods where you should actually consider upping your protein content, maybe by 10 or 20 grams. Probably just 10. Because even 30 grams is kind of a stretch. So, the 2 times you would want to eat that or consume that is, let's see here, right after you wake, or right when you wake up, and right after your workout. Whoa, wait. Telling me I should consume protein right after I work out and right after I wake up. But those are the times that my testosterone's elevated. Those are the times that, my human growth hormone's up, and those are the times that I got all these good things going on, all these hormones run through me. I want to optimize that. I want to keep my body in this, what I see as anabolic state, for as long as possible. So I don't want to eat these proteins and this food, because if I eat this food, I'm going to decline my my levels. So I want to abstain from eating for like an hour or 2 hours. So because I'm going to hurt my gains if I consume that. Here's the thing. Hormones. Great, respectively, for understanding some of the things that's happening in your body. Other thing. Not the only thing that's going on with your body. So I don't want to sound like fucking Ian McCarthy or some asshole here. But when you don't have nutrients in your body is in fact in a catabolic state. It is breaking down your body. Without a doubt, it is breaking down your body. No, it just is. It's a fact. Until you apply macronutrients, your fat, your protein, your carbohydrates. When you apply these, that's when you can get muscle building. That's when you can get, glycogen replenishing aspects. That's when you can recover. Now, when you wake up, I'll just show the post-workout because this is what everyone in IFT or IF is talking about. Basically, a lot of. So, right after you work out, hormones are elevated. Alright, why are they elevated? Well, I can't cite any study that necessarily directly tells me that this is it. But here's my theory. You can see if that's right in your own minds. But when we're working out and when we're doing things, our body isn't necessarily discriminate. Actually, I think I learned this from somebody else. I always seem to do that. But, I don't know. Our body isn't discriminatory when it's breaking down, when it's trying to get calories. So we worked out, we're broken down muscle tissue, we're requiring energy, we're always burning fat, carbohydrates, and protein all at the same time. So what do we do in order to prevent protein loss? The body doesn't necessarily really want to use protein, but just because it's a part of the metabolic system, and that at times it does have to use protein, it has some factors that, when everything is more or less sane, it has some factors that are more or less balanced when you actually have a sufficient amount of fat in your system or carbohydrates. It has a system in place to moderately reduce the protein degradation or protein use for energy, because otherwise it would use it, because at times it does have to use it. In times of severe starvation, it's going to attack your muscles. In times of lack of use, it's going to attack your muscle because it's really calorically high to have muscle mass. Getting a little off topic, but okay, so it's using these growth hormones, this testosterone, all these muscle building hormones per se, in order to do a multitude of things, but one of which is to slow down muscle protein breakdown. Doesn't want to break down the muscle per se, but it does by nature. And so it has this sort of checks and balance system that's in effect. Now, that said, these factors do help, these growth hormone stuff, help how much muscle protein synthesis you can have at any given moment. So, say you just ate, lunch, and you're just kind of sitting around doing nothing, reading. You're not going to be as apt to synthesize protein as right after your workout, because your body doesn't want necessarily protein at this time. It does to a degree, but not as much as it does right after a workout. That's why it's so... These hormones and everything are raging, and this is why we have to take advantage of it, and we have to eat right after our workout. You have to get your carbohydrates, a high glycemic carbohydrate, to replenish muscle protein glycogen and spike insulin, and also you have to get a. This is dependent upon. This is for bodybuilders and people who are trying to build mass, not people who are trying to cut weight. There's some different factors that we have to be accounting for. I'd probably take out the carbohydrate. So we have to get this insulin spike to bring more nutrients in and to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, and we also have to get sufficient number of protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And then we can synthesize more protein during this period. Not a whole lot more, but more protein. Actually, well, percentage-wise, it seems to be more. Elevated by 291% first typical muscle protein synthesis. 290%. I can't necessarily say if it's exactly, because you don't know how much is stimulated as far as other periods of time or whatnot. There's a lot of other factors to say. But it's roughly a lot more, let's just say that. It's a lot more likely to synthesize protein and a lot more able to synthesize protein post-workout. So, consume your protein immediately after your workout. This whole idea of growth hormone and testosterone needed to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and thereby is more important than macronutrients is a ridiculous one. It's absurd. It has some validity as far as understanding what muscle and protein synthesis and things do. You can inject testosterone into your body, and while it's running through your system, you can simply gain muscle without working out. You can do that. In untrained individuals, you can inject testosterone in them, and they'll just simply gain muscle mass. You know why? Because their elevated levels of testosterone is up, and therefore each one of the proteins that comes in, actually gets synthesized. Is actually more likely to get synthesized as muscle protein, opposed to being used as calories or being pissed out or whatever. That's why testosterone works in untrained individuals, is because it's essentially just like working out. It causes protein synthesis. The moderate increase in muscle protein synthesis that you would get from, not eating doesn't do anything. No, it does do something, but yet it's to take advantage of it, you have to eat something. You can't not eat anything. That's like saying, taking steroids and saying, okay, I'm not going to eat anything because that's going to hurt my testosterone levels. What are you, an idiot? You're just wasting money. Okay. So, sorry, I get a little upset about this because it's been so long and it's followed so strictly, and the people are good-hearted. They want to do things good, and right. But as far as building muscle, as far as trying to get big, get huge, add gains, get strength, there's other avenues to take for maximizing muscle protein synthesis. And again, your testosterone levels and the HGH levels are stimulated in the morning as well. So you can take advantage of that, something that's really not talked about much. Take advantage of this elevation and eat a high-protein food in the morning with your high-carbohydrate food in the morning. And at the same time, remember that most of these similar testosterone levels of increasing and the HGH and all these other factors and leptin, I'm going to fucking master it. I got 100 pages to read. So, Mastering Leptin. That was a book suggested from another YouTube channel, which I cannot remember. He's a African-American dude who's got like some scruff, kind of bald, does a radio show. Anyways, these hormones are elevated, these fat-burning hormones are elevated. Take advantage of that. Do light, moderate exercise right before you do anything, right before you eat any food, because you're going to be burning more effectively your fat, the fat on your body. When you eat carbohydrates, and remind you have to stay in a caloric deficit. When you eat carbohydrates, you stimulate insulin and you become more of a carb-burning individual. I'm going to probably do another video on that later, but I was throwing that in there. For anyone who's watching this, and I really hope people are going to, I only get like 50 views, which is kind of annoying because I try and do as best as I can to help people out. But, yeah, so consume your carbohydrates regularly. Do a lot of meals. When I say a lot, I mean like 5 to 6. You could go 8, but I mean, don't wake up to go eat your food and go back to bed. There's no point to really. I'm not gonna say there's no point, but don't disrupt your sleep because it's really essential for recovery and gaining more of your receptors back onto your muscles, so you can actually respond to testosterone and muscle protein synthesis. So yeah, here's the thing. If intermittent fasting, great for fat loss, because of the same reason I said go and exercise in the morning. Because when you don't eat, these hormones are still elevated for a considerable amount of time until you eat food, basically. And they taper off a little bit and fluctuate as the day progresses. But for the most part, these are elevated until you eat food. So you're becoming a fat-burning machine when you're doing intermittent fasting. And the fact is that if you're consuming the same number of calories when you're eating, doing that 6-hour window or whatever you're doing, some of that isn't going to be absorbed, and you're probably going to poop out more fat just because you're consuming it, and you're not going to synthesize as much protein because of what we just talked about. But you're still not going to have the effect of reducing metabolism because you're consuming similar numbers of calories. Your body's not going to say, "Oh fuck, where are my calories? I'm not going to eat any. I'm not going to expend any energy." It's not going to change its metabolic rate in order to try and compensate for the reduced amount of calories. So, because you're not, changing your metabolic rate, because you have this longer period of, strictly fat burning and no carbohydrate burning, you're going to have some excellent fat loss, and you're not going to dramatically kill your strength gains and your muscle gains during this period. It's not going to be beneficial to adding muscle unless maybe you do it as a cycling period and try and make it to try and get your body to be more sensitive to the to protein. But I still don't know much research on that. Just do it for 2 weeks and then come off it, and that might be beneficial. But for the most part, don't do it long term because you're not going to make the gains that you would do if you consumed it in this fashion. Also, what is one of the most important parts about working out? In my mind, and I think in a lot of other people's, is first how you look. Okay, so how you look and how you perform. Make sure if you have your carb window, if you have your food window, that you're hitting it when you're going to the gym. Because if you're not getting your carbohydrates, I would say I did another video on insulin spikes and carbohydrates benefits and proteins benefits. A little bit on proteins, but actually I didn't do a video on proteins benefits. But when you take protein BCAAs as you're working out with your water, you're going to continue to exercise to the maximum, to the best of your abilities, to an unreducing state. The same aspect that creatine does. Water, BCAAs during exercise, and carbohydrates during exercise in a high amount pre-workout. That's what's going to get you some serious, okay, I can't go exaggerate serious, like, oh shit, there's so much. You're going to perform better if you take those things into account. You're literally going to perform better. How much better? Probably, it depends upon if you're dehydrated, if you're undernourished, if you have your carb window 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours before your workout, and now you're running off nothing. Those are going to be affected. If you have your carb window shifted all the way over there, that's going to make a huge difference. If you're just not consuming calories 2 hours or an hour before or half hour before you work out, you'll have a slight decline. You'll see a slight increase in your abilities, probably 5%. But if you're dehydrated all the time, and Scooby did a video on this, I think it's underappreciated, on water, consume your water throughout the entire day, keep your muscles hydrated, not just in the gym. You do that, you'll have significant gains in strength and endurance. So do those two things. Consume carbohydrates about half hour before exercise, and then also do a carbohydrate, BCA, branched chain amino acid mix during workout with a lot of water. Whenever you're thirsty, if you're thirsty, then that means that you're decreasing your athletic performance by right around 2%. Because thirst means dehydration, and dehydration of 2% has been shown to be to decline in athletic performance, and it's been shown that generally, if you can tell you're thirsty, then that means that you have a decline in 2%. Who wouldn't you know? So, if you want to challenge me, if you hate me, if you're going to post TMW fucking no and Ian McCarthy fucking if it fits your macros, you consume it all in one day, it's the best idea. Which is actually the worst idea if you just consume all your carbohydrates, all your food all at once for a multitude of reasons, besides the fact that you're going to not absorb a whole lot of, or you're not going to have the maximum muscle protein synthesis. It can be devastating to your, blood cells, and increases your rates of heart disease and heart attack. And I did a video on that. So that's I gotta stop talking because I'm babbling. I just really hope that this video has helped you understand the reasons why, because there's a lot of them, why intermittent fasting is good for fat loss, but bad for, or not as good, I should say, not necessarily bad. Bad would be saying that you're gonna, if it was like complete fasting. But why intermittent fasting is good for fat loss, bad for maximizing muscle protein synthesis, which is what you need for strength gains. Alright, well, good luck to your, athletic performance, whether that be bodybuilding, powerlifting, football, baseball, basketball, all these things. I hope that you guys kick some ass. Take a look at my other videos. You might learn something. And I hope this wasn't too boring for you.